Good morning. My name is Rich Rebecki, and I'm standing on the side of the former museum here in town. This is the facility that we're moving from over to what was once known as the Ketting building. A short time ago, we did a remote, and we're doing the same setup as we did before. I'll kick off tonight's show, and Jan Loiter is back at the studio with our evening guests. So why don't we take a walk over to the new facility and see if we can get some clean footage, even though there's work is still over there. But I think you'll be surprised at how far we've come since the last time we did this. Well, as you can see, the front of the building has been tuck pointed. Brand new windows have been installed. The painters will be doing the vertical trim between the big windows down bottom. The stone sills are in place. A security emergency door has replaced the single panel glass in the middle. Everything is ready on the outside. The top decorative area will get a new paint job, and we're planning on putting in some LED rope lighting, so at night there'll be a faint light up top there. As we move to the right, you can see that our courtyard sign is up and in place. We haven't done much with the outbuildings, but when we get over there, I'll explain what our plans are once again, and we'll get into all of the fine aspects of the courtyard, and then we'll go take a peek in the building. Hope that we don't get in the way of the people that are still in there working. Well, here we are in what was once a roadway connecting South Garberry Road to the main road here in town. This is our courtyard. This is where we're planning on having people gather up before they walk into the facility. Our plans have not changed with the outbuildings. We're still planning on putting similar glasswork on the brick wall that's here, so people can watch the curator. This is what we're going to refer to as our curator's lab. Behind the curator's lab, we still have plans for a concession stand. Beyond the concession stand, we are planning an area much like Old Sturbridge Village back in Massachusetts, where working craftsmen ply their trades. People can watch, purchase what they make. We have a vertical log cabin that we'll be setting up at the far end, and this is what we refer to as the living museum. This will be all free to the general public. Eventually we'll have benches here and plants, and this is where schools can gather before the field trip starts inside the facility. As you can see, we have the handicap ramp in. On this side, we've got steps that will allow people to enter the courtyard from the parking lot area. And off to the parking lot area, I'll show you where we're planning on putting our dig pit, so kids can play in the sand looking for fossils. So follow me and we'll go around back. We're in the parking lot area, and what we're planning on the main entrance to the facility through the rear. This way here, if we have more than 1 or 2 bus tours, we don't have organized chaos going on. People can enter through this door and be right inside the facility. Behind me, we're planning on utilizing the area off the hillside for a possible dig pit. An area, a play area, if you will, in addition to little kids digging in the sand looking for artifacts and fossils. This'll keep kids engaged both outside, and when we get inside, there'll be plenty of hands-on stuff for them to get engaged in. I'll tell you what, we've got a few minutes because we're splitting the show between this remote and the studio. So let's go take a peek and see if we can work work our way around the people that are inside that are still getting this facility ready. Come on. Well, we're in the main admissions area to the facility. Off to my right is an elevator that will, a working elevator that will take people up to the second floor. The last time a camera was in here, the walls were rough and dirty and old. They've been primed, they've been painted. We're ready for tables, tabletops, and after that, we're ready for people to pay their admissions and to come in. This main archway right here will lead visitors down into the first floor, and I'm sure it's going to be mentioned back at the studio, but our plans are to only open the first floor of the facility. What resources that we have, we want to funnel those into getting the first floor just to a point where it just blows people away. Then we can take our time and do the second floor. We don't want one floor to be more dominating than the other. We want people to experience the best that we have to offer. So we will wait for a 3 to 6 month period where while we're open on the first floor, we'll have construction going on the second floor. And then at some point in time, the entire facility will be fully operational. Over to my left, we'll walk down the stairs, follow me, and we have 3 rooms. We have the gift shop, which will be the way that people walk their way out of the facility. We have an area that we're designating Cultures of the World, and then we have another area, the Land of the Giants, and all the bells and whistles that go with the way the earth once was back millions and millions of years ago. So if you follow me, we'll walk down a few steps. As you can see, the facility is still being worked on. So pardon the messiness of everything. This is the first area that people will be exposed to inside that will have some displays. This area right here. Behind me and underneath this archway will be the Cultures of the World exhibit. We have, as we've mentioned in the past, artifacts and antiquities from Egypt and Rome and Europe, Celtic, Viking, Mesoamerican, pre-Columbian. You mention a period in time, and there's a very good chance we will have an item or two under glass in this area, which again, as I mentioned, will be the cultures of the world. Beautiful, beautiful natural lighting through the smoke glass windows. Again, just like everything else on the first floor, everything has been primed, everything's been painted, everything is ready for displays. We replaced in the walkway over there. We replaced the old aluminum door with a crash bar emergency door. Hopefully, we'll never have to use it for an emergency, but we're prepped for that. The security cameras are in place and functional. You'll see them in the Land of the Giants. This space over here, this is our gift store area. And in addition to the gift store area, we do have a public facility back in the corner. So somebody that doesn't have the time to come and visit the displays will be able to come through the double doors from the courtyard, purchase items in the gift store, and if they need to use a facility, we have a bathroom tucked around the corner. All of our cases, display cases, and bureaus and shelving, all that's on site. It's just a matter of cleaning everything up, setting them up, and then filling them with items that the general public and visitors would like to purchase. The last room that we want to pop into is the biggest room on this first floor. This is what we're billing as the land of the giants. This is the space where our dinosaur models will be displayed. This is the space that will have geology items. You name an item from millions and millions of years ago, there's a possibility we'll have something along that nature on display. As I mentioned, the security cameras, we've got security cameras in all locations. We've got 2 different viewing areas for the security cameras. Every square inch of the property is visually covered. Something that's unique, and I was hoping we were a little closer to opening to kind of give people a tease, but these steps will allow people to walk from the dinosaurs up to a platform that will eventually lead you upstairs. But what's unique about this platform is there are plans of having a 3-dimensional mural up here. So if there's dinosaur models in their natural habitat, people standing up there will be part of the actual display. And this is how you go up and down to get right up and close, or to be like walking along a walkway with a volcano over your shoulder, just like it was back in the day. So it's kind of a pretty unique idea. As you can see, the space is cavernous. It's huge. What will be in here will certainly impress visitors. Well, that's about it in a nutshell. A good portion of the rest of the show will be from the studio. This was just to give you a little idea of how far we've come in such a short period of time. We're still earmarking summer of 2019 for our grand opening. We're hoping that will happen. Further discussion on that will happen at the studio. So I'm done here. I'll see you in a few seconds. Jan, I'm tossing it back to you, and you can introduce your guests tonight, and we'll finish the show from the TV studio. Thank you.
Within 7 days, I set it like this, and the tap goes like that.
Well, welcome back. We are now starting the second half of the 21st Spotlight series with the St. Genevieve Museum Learning Center, and we have 2 board members with myself tonight, Robert Wolk and Rich Rebecki.
Good evening, Jan.
Good evening. You just were taking a tour with Rich through the museum center, and it was really nice to see.
How about the magic of television, huh?
Isn't that great?
I was there wearing a dark sport coat, and I'm in a light one now.
Hey, and you know what? That's just how magical you are, Rich, in a lot of ways.
That's not technology, that's your closet, Rich. Turn the light on in your closet.
So we're just going to catch you up on other details with the organization in the St. Genevieve Museum Learning Center. And the biggest news is that we have finally hired an executive director. His name is Scott Multi, and he has 30 years of experience in the museum industry. We're very excited to have him. Hopefully within our next Spotlight series, he will be here to tell more about himself, but I'll let Robert tell what he knows about Scott. He's had several visits with him.
Well, we've interviewed him, and we've got his resume. As you said, he's been in this 30 years. Mm-hmm. So he brings a lot of experience, and his whole 30 years has been in this museum and artsy field and collection field. So when we interviewed him, he has actually worked with the Darrows. Mm-hmm. So he knows the Darrows, and the Darrows know him, and they work together well. So he was a win-win for us, because he knows the Darrells know him. They both like each other. They've worked together in the past. Down at Marble Hill, they worked together. So they have a working history. He was a win for us. I don't want to say a lot about him. I think that our next program, Rich has the anxiety to bring him in here and let him introduce himself and tell his story. So I could go through all of his jobs, but that wouldn't do him justice. I'd rather have tell his expertise himself. But yes, we're very excited to have him. He's come on. He's already drafting things to organize the museum and prepare it for the opening. So we're very excited to have him.
I think with his foresight and with his experience, it's going to really move things forward to our opening day for sure. And just like putting together the state-of-the-art museum that we've been talking about. So we're very excited to have him.
Yeah, I mean, his presence takes a lot off of the plates that we had that were already full. And as an executive board, the 5 individuals, none of us had any previous museum experience, so there were days that we would take 1 step forward and 2 steps back, and that is eliminated. We have somebody who is a full-time person whose resume indicates he's more than capable of picking up what slack we've left behind, because we didn't know we were leaving any slack, and
Trial and error method is what
Yeah.
we were working off of,
Right.
and we've come to this point, but this gentleman has actually done this. And as Rich stated in a write-up here that he presented me, he has the experience. He's not guessing at it. So we're hiring somebody that has already done the multiple hat test. He's going to wear multiple hats in this organization. So he's coming on as the executive director. I'm sure that he will set up displays, move displays, organize the workers, organize the whoever we have in there.
yeah, he'll put all the people that will ultimately answer to him in place. He'll make schedules. We won't make schedules.
Right.
We used to make the schedules at the former museum.
Right.
We used to show up when somebody called in sick at the former museum. We would pay bills, by committee. We had our financial person who should just oversee the accounts, or writing checks and paying bills. That hopefully will stop with him having complete, I guess the best word is he'll have complete autonomy.
Right.
And I think that pretty well sums it up, and he's well aware of that. And when you look through his resume, Jan, that he's done that for other museums. Went in and did every one of those jobs, took the docents, trained the docents, give them scripts to talk about the items that are in the museum. He will actually be with Guy Darrell setting up the displays in the museum. So, I mean, he's going to have firsthand knowledge of what's going in there and how it's going to be displayed.
Well, I just want to acknowledge all the work that's gone into the museum and the dreamers that have dreamed beyond the original Museum of St. Genevieve, taking that history that we cherish here and moving it to another location that will also bring in other cultures, other history, things that will bridge the gap from the beginning to now, which I think is very exciting. And it will continue to provide an opportunity for our history to be supported by many who are coming to view ours and theirs.
And a lot of our history, as Rich has said, is sporadic. We had it just placed in there. This will chronologically place a lot of those items that we had just in the St. Genevieve Museum will now go in with parts of ancient cultures that, were part of a different time. So we'll have everything we had in the St. Genevieve Museum.
Right.
It just won't all be in that St. Genevieve room. Some of it will be in with the Indian culture, the native Indian cultures, you know, and different cultures. So it'll still all be there, but it'll be spread out.
We truly, for the locals who were worried that we were moving out of a historical building and we were gonna mothball everything, that couldn't be any farther from the truth. We're moving into another historical building, and as Robert just said, our items will be, some will be dispersed with similar cultures. Other items will be majestically displayed in the St. Genevieve room. I mean, it's a win-win situation for traditionalists like myself that like change but don't want to make wholesale changes. Yes, the St. Genevieve room, we're still promoting a level of flexibility that will allow a family to tell their history over a 3 or 4 month period, right smack in the middle of what arguably is maybe the most pristine piece of real estate in that entire museum, and that's that corner that overlooks the town square. And you know, what's almost comical is when you take the square footage of the former museum and then you compare it with the St. Genevieve room. It's the St. Genevieve room's not that much smaller.
Really?
Yeah, and add to that, as Robert said, some of our items are going to be culturally related. A good portion of our stuff will still be on display, but it won't be that concentrated in one, you know, in one area.
So like you have Civil War
Yeah.
and the Native Indians and the river
Life on the
history.
Life on the
Right,
Mississippi.
sure.
Yep.
You know, all of those things will still be there, but some of it will be put with the cultures that it belongs in. So everything we had in that museum will still be there. In fact, a lot of the stuff, Rich, that you guys have discovered above the cabinets will now be brought out and displayed. Because before we didn't have enough room to do that. Now they will be.
I don't even think our entire board of directors realizes what kind of military, we've got we discovered items from World War I Europe, World War I Germany, World War I United States, World War II Europe, World War II United States. We've got full uniforms, we've got armaments, we've got, it's really amazing. And the gentleman who curates the military museum in Kansas City has been a phenomenal resource, telling us, you know, how lucky we are with some of the items that we're in possession of. And again, I don't have a background in museums, as you both well know, but my gut is telling me that once we're up and running, a simple phone call to him, we could start trading stuff off, and because he already knows what we're in possession of.
Yes.
You know, and it's just, it's true, it's exciting. You know, what we're on the verge of is
And again,
truly
Jack,
exciting.
what we were saying was, the things that he's talking about, they weren't even on display in the current museum.
No,
They were above the cabinets or stored someplace, and then I believe Steph Goddell did the background and the history search and contacted this individual.
Yep.
Made the contact with him. Well, he identified what rank they were, what regiment they were with, or platoon.
What part of the war they either returned to, you know, with 2 feet or in a casket, based
Yeah.
on the ribbons that were on some of the uniforms.
So what we're trying to get across is there is nothing in that museum that won't move to the next museum. Plus, what wasn't on display will be displayed maybe just not in the St. Genevieve room, in with that period or
Yes.
that section of the museum.
Right, so that's exciting. So we've done a lot of work to get it to this point where
Mhm.
we're about ready to move in all those items. I mean, the building looks great, right?
Oh, yeah.
And probably there's more that has happened since you walked through the museum and gave us the tour that you just saw. So is there any new updates with the
Well,
building?
today, where we're at today, we're down to, the Dunsey construction crew is placing the trim inside, trimming the windows out, putting the final trim in, putting the baseboards in. The electrical work is, I would say, 99% complete. We are, the only item that's tripping us up right now is the doors are on back order. So we have to wait for the final door order to come in so that they can be installed, and then we can finish tile work up to the trim base and finish up the interior doors. So that's the only thing that's holding us up right now. Everything else is actually complete, and we're ready to start installing displays. The thing that was holding us up on the displays was the security system. That's complete.
Oh, good.
The,
And it's amazing.
yes.
It's completely 100% state of the art.
We're gonna need that,
High
don't
tech.
you think?
Yeah,
Lots
I think
of
there's
valuable things.
21 cameras, am I correct in that? I believe there's 21
Yeah,
cameras
there's at least 16. There could be as many as 21.
that are scanning the entire building at all times. The speaker system is broke into 6 variable spaces so that a person that is monitoring what's going on in the museum, if they see somebody taking something or touching something that they should not be on, you can actually flip on that zone, the zone that they're in, and talk to them.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, very good security system, that is complete.
Yeah.
The windows are all in. The brickwork is the front of the building is complete. Everything on the outside, in fact, one of the last items we were doing was rebuilding gutters in the back, and they're done. So, I mean, those are little items, you know, but those are the finishing touches. So we're really held up only by some doors, the interior doors that have been back ordered on us. And unfortunately, we have to wait for them to get
That's
here.
right.
But
Well, we've been watching the changes on the outside of the building.
Yeah. Aren't
And
they
I'm
interesting?
sure that there's people looking in the window like this,
Yeah.
you know, trying to see what's going on the inside. But the finishing of the floors and
Yeah, and
the
the-
exposing the brick and all that has been done for quite a while, and it's just finishing up the final details right now.
Right, the room upstairs that has the hardwood floor, absolutely unbelievable. It really turned out nice, and the brickwork, the original brickwork is on the walls yet. So that room is complete.
So what I understand is that we're just gonna move in items on the first floors to open the
You
museum,
know,
is that
Jan,
right?
if I commented on that, and I don't think Rich or I, either one would say for sure that's a true statement, that is what we agreed to.
Right.
But as the executive director comes in, and tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, our display, we had the display cases that were in the original museum have been redone, and they would be delivered tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Well, when he gets those in, some of the items that go into those display cases, he will figure out what's going in there. For us to carry those items to the basement and later set that up may not be the most practical
Sure.
thing. So based on what Scott actually calls, he may set those up there now. So there may be more than just the first floor, but entirely up to the executive director and his decision.
Yeah, the rationale behind opening just the first floor was to keep a level of equity between the 2 floors. The majority of items that we have to put on display would fit comfortably in the first floor. And people are going to be wowed. You canvass this county and you bring in the most pessimistic person, and they're gonna walk away with a level of awe because of what is being planned for that first floor. Which includes, as I did in the walkthrough, the gift shop, the cultures of the world, the land of the giants, and all the bells and whistles that go in with early Earth. Okay. We want to avoid having the second floor being a little less spectacular. And, you know, one of the things that we've mentioned, and we will, you know, re-mention, you know, with our executive director, that we're willing as a board, as a governing board, as a board that makes decisions, with the facility in mind, first and foremost, if he can guarantee a double wow, then by all means, let's do it. Let's open up the theater, let's open up the St. Genevieve room, let's put the computers in, let's put the information desk upstairs. Let's get it the way that we had originally planned it, but the caveat is it's gotta have the same wow factor as what's downstairs. Ironically, this space on the second floor that's got the hardwood floors and the brick walls, I think you could put anything in there and people are gonna be impressed.
Yes.
I mean, this is original brickwork.
I know, it's beautiful.
This is, the floor is original floor. There's the remains of the dumbwaiter in the corner that we're gonna illuminate the 100-year-old gears, cogs and wheels. I mean, that alone is pretty spectacular. But if anything else, if we have to cut corners, you know, just to be able to have, you know, 2 floors, then our thought is every one of us at one point in time has been in a museum where a display is being renovated. Sorry for your inconvenience, but, you know, no admittance. You can hear hammers, you can hear saws, you can, there's a, you know, black curtain, you know, so it's not out of the question that we open up the first floor, wow everybody. Hey, worst case scenario, we get to have 2 grand openings. You know, we have the first floor and the second one. All we have to do is come up with a rationale for the second floor, you know, to be able to open up the entire building. But we're not making decisions anymore as a committee of 5. You know, what we're doing is we're making suggestions. We're sharing our vision with somebody who has the experience to make things happen.
And the nice thing about the way the building is laid out, Jan, it is physically possible to open up 75% of that building and have the other 25% still under renovation and being worked on. So that's very possible, and that will be up to the executive director. The reason I don't want to comment any further on that is he needed to make some suggestions with these display cases coming in that he may be working into that arena. But he will decide that. So
he will also, you know, make decisions about the displays, but also make decisions about the marketing plan as well, right? And how we're gonna be reaching out to the communities to let people know what's going on, the schedule that is coming forth. And we'll, you know, put together some action plans for people that are willing to provide some service or just their expertise to
during the interview process, and Rich, I don't think I've shared this with you yet, he actually has, Scott has 2 people, retired school teacher and another one, and I don't remember what his expertise was, but who have volunteered to come up and be part of the museum, going out and doing marketing, taking items from the museum and going to schools and encouraging them to bring their school classes to our museum, the Learning Center. And they said they would do that. They would love to do that 1 or 2 days a week.
Oh, that's great, to
So-
take the teachers out to the schools and bring the schools back to the museum. That's awesome. That's
A lot of people that, and again, one of the bonuses we get with this gentleman is he's worked in this field for 30 years. The number of connections he's got is unbelievable. And to hear him discuss museums, I guess we went to an entirely different level than what we did at our board. The five of us did the best we could with what we knew about museums. This guy is way up here because he has connections with the Field Museum in Chicago. He has connections with museums in California. He knows the people that work in them. And by the nature of having 30 years in there, he has a lot of people that want to work with him.
Sure.
So that's kind of a bonus for us. And again, I think that Scott's going to be wearing many hats. So he's our executive director. That's the title, but he'll have a lot more hats on it. So.
And I guess when he gets so busy, he'll start to delegate those different responsibilities.
Well, I'm
but that
sure
will
he'll
come
do
into-
that from the get-go, and that's probably part of what we hired, is an
Right.
executive director that knows how to organize those things and has done it in the past and is going to repeat it here.
Well, I'm really excited because I know we have people that are more than willing to work and want to be a part of this, but without the real clear direction
Yes.
and the timing, to make sure that the timing is right
Mhm.
and the steps that we take are forward steps instead of forward and back too, right?
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
You
I
know,
mean,
we've done a lot of
it's-
that, but we.
It was
have-
it was a factor of
Right.
our lives.
Well,
And
sure.
it was, I mean, some of our monthly meetings, there, I'm not gonna say that there was never any animosity between the five of us, but there was always in the back of each one of our minds was that, you know, we didn't see a lot of light bulbs pop up above somebody's head. We saw question marks.
Very well stated.
Yeah, and that's,
Well,
not-
but a
in the long
strong
run, that's not a
dream,
good thing.
And like, how do we get there, right? And I think that's true of anybody who goes into a new idea and a way to progress. You do have a lot of question marks, but
Well, I think that we lived in the world that Walt Disney lived in, and he said, if you can dream it, it can be done.
right, so here you go.
So we dreamed it, and now we have moved to a person who has the expertise to see those dreams fulfilled. So,
And all in good time.
yes.
We probably weren't ready for him until now because we have a building that's almost ready to move things
Right.
in, right?
Right,
Yeah.
and, you know, the Darrows have worked diligently putting displays together, and I've sent you photos and Rich
Oh, they're amazing.
of
Mhm.
different items that they are creating to put in this museum, and it's just unbelievable. So,
Right.
and their minds are going, for us to sit and talk about what's going in that museum and the connections with the Field Museum out of Chicago, you know, I hear those words, but I don't comprehend how important that is to us. But to hear Scott talk about it, it's just amazing. You know, you get excited listening to him tell you what that means to our museum. So these people talk at a different level, and when they're talking displays, we see a dinosaur, or we see ancient culture, Mayan temple. But they see an entirely different, they see it at a level far above where we're looking at it, which is what we need
Yep.
to make that the wow experience you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a, you know, we up until recently, we were all baseball managers. Now we're moving up to the front office because we've hired someone to coach all 9 innings, and we'll just watch from the owner's box.
I love how you put it all in perspective with
Yeah.
your life. So looking back and saying, gosh, what our family has been involved in, what we get excited about, hearing more about, more agriculture. You're kind of a tractor collector. I mean, my kids grew up knowing tractors, trucks, because that's what they saw whenever they went to the business. And I learned a lot about medicine through the years. But we have so many aspects of that museum that can get one person excited about just one single part. You know, the dinosaurs alone, that is going to bring in a lot of children. But then you think about the Viking era, you think about the Renaissance era, you think about the different parts of culture that certain people just like that part.
Well, like the
Yeah.
agriculture,
Right,
as
right,
you were stating.
exactly.
And a guy called me sometime in the last 3 or 4 days and asked me if he could have permission to buy some items that he found. And he was working on the agricultural display.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And he said, these are above the line items. And he said, I've never seen him. I've been in this for my entire life. In fact, his birthday is next week, I believe. But he said, I've never seen these items come up for sale, and they're available now.
That's interesting.
So, and he's working on the agricultural display, and then he's working on the river display, how the river plays into this area and how it affects this area. And, you know, I mean, and their minds are working, and they're looking through entire collections of stuff where we're isolated to what we have in our museum.
Sure.
But they're going to build that display out far beyond what we have. So.
And something not to get lost in the shuffle is we, the collective group, that's the St. Genevieve Museum Learning Center, we own our own $250,000 worth of antiquities that will also be on display. I mean, it'd be ludicrous for me to say, oh, we're gonna be able to match the Darrow collection item for item. We're not gonna be able to do that, but if there's any holes to fill in his collection, there's a very good chance that we have it in ours.
That's good.
And, you know, we've got Roman and Egyptian and Celtic and Viking and, you know, it's.
I don't even think that, Jan, to say that we know everything that we've got in that collection. We have the appraisal, but personally to see those items, we haven't even seen everything that's in that room yet, so. And it appraised for $250,000. So.
You know, the night that we had the educators
Right,
here, that was predominantly, not predominantly, that was bits and pieces of most of the cultures that we had, that we could carry over comfortably. You know, the bigger, heavier stuff we left behind.
And we don't trust Rich with sharp items like swords and stuff.
We better not.
No, I still, at 70, run with scissors, so I mean, it's
And those knee treatments are gonna let you run a little faster.
that's right.
We gotta watch that, don't we? No. Oh, well, I'm real excited about just, you know, I guess I'm excited to talk about all that is going to be there, you know, that we can show. And I also think, you know, just what you mentioned in the very beginning of our conversation, all the different war memorabilia, the different World War I and II, and, you know, how that matches up with the opening, too, of the Vietnam Wall. There's going to be people coming in that want war history, and that's going to bring them in, and then they're going to see more, and they're going to talk about what else we also have. So, I mean, I just see it gathering a lot of interest as we just open the doors. I think it's going to be a connecting point for a lot of things that are happening in the area.
Yeah, and you know what? Obviously, there are not as many museums, you know, down the 55 corridor. But who's to say that between St. Louis, St. Genevieve, Perryville, Cape Girardeau, who's to say we couldn't have what is it, like a 2-hour car ride from St. Louis to Cape?
Right, right.
So who's to say we couldn't approach the other museums and say, hey, let's put a tourist package together. Let's get tourist buses that knock off the 2 hours. They go from St. Louis to Cape. Then they come up to Perryville. Then they come to St. Genevieve. And even if they only come in for a quick looky-look, they'll come back.
Right.
Yeah, they'll come back. I met a gentleman who was who is the executive director of the Negro League's Hall of Fame in Kansas City. And he left such an amazing impression with me. He spent over 2 hours walking me around his museum. I picked his brain for the better part of 2 hours. And he said to me, so I'm assuming as an educator, you've got some action plans in place. You've got goals. And I said, well, until we hire a executive director, yeah, the group is making goals. And he said to me, he said, well, let me leave you with something. I said, what's that? And everything he told me to that point was valuable. And I brought it back to the board. He said, you should only have one goal. And I looked at him and I said, just one? He said, yeah. He said, you want to be a destination. So I looked at him and he said, you woke up this morning and over breakfast you decided to come to my museum. He said, you could have gone anywhere in Kansas City, but you decided to come here. He said, you could have gone next door to the Jazz Museum and talked to them, but you came here. He said, that's the goal. He said, I know St. Genevieve. He says, I know the colonial homes. I know it's wine country. I know you can get onion rings and sausage there. He said, your museum is not a goal yet. He said, you want people to wake up and he said, you want someone to say, Gertrude, let's get the kids and go to St. Genevieve today. Because St. Genevieve Museum is the destination point.
Gertrude, he might be chiming himself.
Yeah.
Dating
And
him.
while
Yeah,
we're
he
at the
said-
museum, we'll go get lunch here, and we'll maybe go see the wineries on the
Yeah.
way home and have dinner
And you know,
there.
in the beginning, and we've mentioned this multiple times. When we visited the shopkeepers, when we visited, the businesses, in the beginning, when we were sharing, and you got to give the guy, it's his vision. When we were sharing Robert's vision about what to do with the museum, we said the same thing to everybody. We can't guarantee an uptick in your business. I mean, we just don't have a crystal ball. But we can use the P word. The potential is off the charts. Because when people come in here, whether we have a little concession stand or not, it's not going to supply a lunch or a supper. If you're here over a mealtime, you're more likely going to go to one of the restaurants.
Right.
If you come down for the day, specifically to see us, you're not going to be able to go through our facility in an hour. I mean, even if you were a speed reader, you're not going to be able to see everything that we're going to have. So people are going to be investing 2 or 3 hours of their time, maybe more. You know what? Maybe you ought to think about getting a room for the night. And then that opens up other options the next day. People don't have to shoot home right away. So the potential for the bed and breakfasts, the restaurants, the taverns, the bars, the potential is off the charts.
And then one of the things Scott mentioned, I keep going back to Scott because he was very interesting in our interview process. But I said, Scott, so what's your intent? What do you want to achieve out of this? And he said, well, it's going to take me 3 to 5 years to get this organized and get it up and have everything the way I want it and have it functioning where somebody can walk in and step in my place and run it because it's that well organized. But he said, hopefully, it will build to something greater than that. And we've got another building right next door that he keeps dreaming about what's going to go on in that building. So I would hope that...
To the left of the front door? Like
the clip joint.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The clip joint.
To the right of it, okay, great.
Yeah.
So all those that we already own.
Right.
Okay.
So that building hasn't been developed at all. It's phase 2. But Scott's already thinking about what's going to go on in there. So hopefully it's not a job, it's a career for Scott, and that he will retire from this location, and it will be his museum. He will be the executive director, and its success will rest on him. So I'm very impressed with him. So his dreams are our dreams.
That's
That's what
great.
we hope for too.
What else you want to tell us? Anything new with a thought of when it might open, or it's all up to Scott as
yeah.
far as what he thinks the timing
We
is?
have put some dates out there, and I don't want to speculate on dates because people start getting connected to that date. They
Right,
all of a sudden
exactly.
zone in on that date, and when you miss it, they are disappointed.
Sure.
And for me to say something over Scott, I would rather Scott come in, give him a chance to orientate himself with what we've got going, how far along we are, what the displays are, and how he wants to organize that.
I think that that's a question that's asked a lot, and that's why I asked it. You know,
Yes.
people are wanting to know when, and truthfully, because we have someone who really has a vision and an understanding of timing and how long it's going to take now to put that museum, the quality of the museum together, we're going to wait for that time, right? We're going to wait until it's exactly the way we
And
want
I
it
think
to
the
be.
executive board has been very clear that everything we've done has been done right. I
Mhm.
mean, the restoration of the building everything has been done right.
Mhm.
To accelerate something now just to get a door open would be a mistake.
Exactly. I agree.
And I tell people when they ask me, you know, when are you gonna open? I generally say, it opened last week. And then I just shrug my shoulders and I say, soon,
Yeah.
you know? And then I go into a spaceball routine. Well, when is soon? Now?
Keep watching the changes from the outside. Every day is something new over there, right? I mean, we
Yeah,
got the new
and-
sign, we got the Courtyard
and I
sign up. That
think-
was an exciting moment, wasn't it?
I think the only
You
thing
know.
that left in the front, are we still going with the black gooseneck lamps?
Yes.
In the front?
Yes, and there was something to come up with that last week, and they were discussing it. Something may have been brought up by City Hall to do with those, but they're ready to go on now. And when you see those, no, it's not the gooseneck lamps, it's the lighting of the facade up at top.
Oh, the LED rope?
The LED lights up
Yeah.
on top. There was a question with Citizens Electric and the city about the location of those, and they were working through that. So.
Because the gooseneck lamps were on the original building.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will go back. That wasn't the piece. It was
Okay.
those lights at the top where we wanted to light that facade up. So little items like that, the cleanup items, you know, they're going on. But Scott's not involved with that. The building committee, we have a building committee that is actually taking care of that. So those details are being worked through. But we're down to the last of them, Jan.
I know,
When
I
you're
know.
when you're worrying about gutters on the back of the building, you're down
Yeah.
to the last
You're down to-
details, so.
Yeah.
They installed new garage doors last week. I think we're down, and then the board, the executive board, it's a sprinkled building. And due to the nature of the items that we will be housing and the cost of being down, we actually elected to go to a dual action valve. That when a sprinkler head tells you that you gotta have water in the place, if it malfunctioned, it would let water in there. But this dual action valve actually says, hey, hold it, unless a smoke alarm went off and it said we needed water, it don't get water.
I see.
So it's a dual action valve. We approved that. It's being installed now. It's one of the last items being installed. So,
It's amazing how much needs to happen before you even bring in the displays, huh, Robert?
well, and you know, you look at that, and the executive board, we reviewed it. It was not a cheap item, but what's the cost of trying to replace something that's irreplaceable?
Yeah, that's it, yeah, that you
You
can't.
can't replace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the downtime, even if it's covered by insurance, it's the downtime
Right.
and the inconvenience to our museum that would be costly, you know, so. But those are just details that you get down to the last minute, and we were hooking the system up, and they had activated the system, put water out to all the sprinkler heads, made sure we had no leaks. And then they said, you know, we would think you would want a dual action valve. And I said, well, shouldn't we have known that sometime before? But after they explained it to us, it made sense. So yes, those little details, Jan. But those can all be done as we move forward. The two big items that are coming in, a very large bird that will be hanging in the Hall of Giants,
Hall of Giants. Yeah.
and the Mayan temple that will go into ancient civilizations.
Yeah.
Those two major items will be coming in the next couple of weeks. As soon as they've got doors on the place, they're ready to come. And it's just a matter of us getting them here.
One thing that you were excited about talking before we started the show was the puzzle maker. The opportunity for, if you have a special item in that museum and you want your picture taken with that item, you will be able to do that on site and to have a puzzle before you leave to take home. And that's something that we're really excited about as far as bringing in.
Yeah,
As a memory, you know, to keep a memory
Yeah.
of the museum with you. There'll be so many different items and everybody will find something that they fall in love with, right?
Yep.
You'd
So-
be hard pressed to go into a museum and not find puzzles of one kind or another. They're all over the place. What will make us continue to be unique is we're thinking about having that puzzle machine right on site. It'll be cell phone app type driven. Hopefully, people will come in, take their pictures in and around our museum, and then have but if somebody just came in from visiting, you know, if somebody was blown away by the onion rings at the annual and they took a picture of it, well, you know what? It's gonna be the same price to have a puzzle made of onion rings as it is of your son standing in front of a
I like the onion
dinosaur.
rings in this town too, and I might not, and a beer next to it, right?
Yeah.
There might be some people think that that's the best part of St. Genevieve. You
That's,
just
you
never
know,
You just
oh,
never-
and that, you know,
Or the liver
that's
dumplings.
Timmy's hand in the background as he's reaching. But anyway, it unique may be, if you had to describe, you know, the best way to describe the former museum was eclectic. You know, what made it eclectic was the way we had our displays set up, but everything at one time or another was in the possession of someone from St. Gen County. Okay? This facility is gonna be unique. And every aspect of it will be unique.
So we are wrapping it up. We've got about 3 minutes before we say goodnight. So I just want you to share anything that we haven't talked about yet that you might want the public to know moving forward, or maybe what our next show will be like, Rich?
Well, I'm hoping, I'm the one that does the overviews and the scripts for the Spotlight show. I'm hoping that we can, he's a busy man, and we're making him even busier each day. But I'm hoping that our executive director could be formally introduced in the May. In the May Spotlight show. And then, you know, with board members, and at that point, he'll paint a pretty clear picture of who he is, what he's planning to do. And then I can say, well, the Spotlight series is yours now. I'm running out of ideas.
It's been replaced,
Yeah.
haven't you? He's going to be taking it from here and letting us know what's moving forward.
That's right.
That'll be an exciting show, though, to introduce
will be.
Scott
Yeah.
and then to listen to his vision.
Yeah,
So-
it will be very exciting. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, happy spring, everyone. It's finally breaking and we have today was beautiful. I didn't get to see much of it, but to see 71 degrees as I walked out of the job site, you know, it was really nice and so fresh. So I'm excited for spring, and I think spring will bring us new
And
life.
if I remember right, just a second left, but you were coloring eggs after one of these shows last year.
I think I was.
Yes,
So
so
yeah, I got to start
you
thinking
got
about
Easter
that.
coming up,
Yeah.
so,
Absolutely.
okay, thanks,
Well, good night,
Jan.
everyone, and
Appreciate it.
come join us next month. We've got an exciting
Yeah.
show to follow this one, so
Thanks, Jan.
Thanks, Jan.
good night.